we discuss let us not put it that way, not the crisis of the Renaissance Dam, a new chapter in the Egyptian-Ethiopian relationships, and maybe this is going to be of the Renaissance Dam in an attempt to open a new page in the Ethiopian-Egyptian relationship. Cairo and Addis Ababa are showing seriousness and commitment in carrying out a roadmap that would lead them to the resolving of the dispute over the Renaissance Dam. And this roadmap was agreed upon earlier in the Khartoum talks in August, despite Egypt's concerns and Ethiopia's insistence in constructing the Renaissance Dam on the original stated specifications. And that was followed by a visit by the Water and Irrigation Minister earlier, as we all heard and have seen, to Addis Ababa, and a tripartite committee, a new one, was held. And later a brief meeting between the Egyptian President El-Sisi and the Ethiopian Prime Minister was held at the UN headquarters after the Egyptian President was on a short visit to the US to attend the 69th session of the General Assembly of the UN in New York. And we're going to get more details on that brief meeting between the Egyptian President and the Ethiopian Prime Minister. And despite the willingness to resolve the issue and the commitment and all that, some fundamental concerns still remain on the Egyptian side, of course. And we're very delighted to have with us Dr. Khalid Abu Zeid, the Director of Egyptian Water Partnership and Water Resources Irrigation Expert. Good evening, Dr. Abu Zeid. And my first question to you is that the meeting that took place briefly between President Sisi and the Ethiopian Prime Minister on the sidelines of the 69th session of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Of course, they did not get into many details of the issue of the Renaissance Dam, but there was, there was a talk, and there was a report that was presented to the President by as an outcome of the visit of the Minister of Water and Irrigation, and a report was presented to the Egyptian Prime Minister, through which the President addressed the Ethiopian Prime Minister and talked about some of the thorny issues of the Renaissance Dam crisis, but in a slight way. So if you can elaborate on that, please.
Well, of course, I don't know the details of what happened in the discussion between President of Egypt and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, but I would think that the talks were around general broad-line principles of cooperation between the two countries, and how to strengthen the relationship between the two countries, and how to achieve mutual benefits between the two countries, not necessarily just in the water sector, but in many other sectors, economic and political, and also cooperation on natural resources and other issues. Things that would make two of the most important and largest countries in the continent of Africa get into a strong relationship in the coming future. Ethiopia and Egypt are the population of the two countries are maybe two of the largest populations in Africa, besides South Africa and Nigeria. But the relationship, the strong relationship between the two countries is definitely important, and is definitely going to benefit both countries. A relationship that would stand on principles of good neighborhood and mutual understanding and mutual benefits between the two countries. I think that there is going to be an expected meeting between President of Egypt and the Prime Minister of Ethiopia in the near future.
As a matter of fact,
and exactly, the President of Egypt was invited to visit Ethiopia in the coming future. And I would think that the brief meeting that they had, probably had discussed the timing, the possibility of areas to talk about.
Talks included also in that brief meeting was discussed, and they discussed the tripartite committee meeting that was held in Addis Ababa earlier this month, and the Ethiopian Prime Minister was quoted that Egyptians should put all the worries aside that they have, I mean the concerns that they have about that Renaissance dam, they should put it on the side and feel relieved. What does that mean, and how can we translate it into something that could come in our benefit? We have 55.5% of the Nile water share according to the colonial agreement that we signed. Does that mean that we still are going to have the same share of water?
Well, let me talk a little bit specifically about this. Of course, Egypt's use of the Nile water is currently about 55.5 billion cubic meters per year, according to the agreement that was signed between Egypt and Sudan to utilize the water that used to flow downstream in that area in Egypt, downstream of Sudan and Egypt. And this is, of course, for Egypt, this 55.5 billion cubic meters per year is not even enough, as has been the same since the 1959 agreement between Egypt and Sudan. The population of Egypt is increasing, the demands are increasing in the different sectors, and we need to be looking at additional water resources.
Not lessening those resources.
And not to talk about maintaining or even a slight reduction in that amount. That's not acceptable by any means. So the Ethiopian side have showed through these statements that they at least are not intending to affect that usage. Of course, this usage is also associated with other kind of uses, like the generation of hydropower from the High Aswan Dam. It's not just the water use itself, but also the generation of hydropower.
It's a whole life.
And it's the whole
energy,
life.
it's
Egypt,
electricity,
exactly.
water,
and Egypt depends 100% on this amount of water for its livelihood in all the sectors, whereas Ethiopia, for instance, may need to utilize the water of the Nile for generating electricity, but they have their rainfall and the groundwater recharge to utilize for their day-to-day water consumption. Ethiopia, for instance, receives about 950 or 960 billion cubic meters per year of rainfall. If you compare 960 to 55.5, this is a very big difference, of course, and this difference shows that their dependency on the water itself should not be on the water of the Blue Nile, which originates there. Of course, that 55.5 billion cubic meters of water per year for Egypt is not all coming from the Blue Nile. In Ethiopia, 85% comes from the Ethiopian highlands, and that includes the Blue Nile, the Adbara river, and the Sobat river. But 15% comes from the equatorial lakes, which is the other countries in the along the upstream of the White Nile. So this statement by the Ethiopian Prime Minister, it comforts, of course, the Egyptian side, but not that much.
But not in a practical way.
Exactly, because these has to have some guarantees. How is the Ethiopian side going to guarantee that that Egypt is not going to be affected by the Renaissance Dam or any other dam that's going to be put in the plan? We hear about other plans as well. So how is this going to be guaranteed? And the main task that the Ethiopian side should be working on is how to really comfort the Egyptian people by